Welcome to the Women in Business radio show with Sian Murphy, connecting women in business around the globe.
Hello and welcome into the Women in Business radio show studio. I'm Sian Murphy. My co-host today is
Michele Yianni Attard.
And in the studio with us, we have a really interesting lady. Her name is Lorraine Crooks. She is a sexual empowerment liberator and she's the founder of Business Success System and she is the CEO of Orgasmic Life.
Oh, thank you.
And we're going to hear Lorraine's story in a minute because as somebody sort of going out into business, she had to overcome some challenges that I think a lot of us have, which is being employed in the corporate type sector and really sort of wanting to do something else and trying to run the two of them together, but it's really quite difficult to do that. So we're going to be talking to her about some of the challenges that she faced, because I'm here to tell you they were far more significant than the ones that I faced actually doing that. And also a really different angle to her business. I love it when people have unexpected angles that they can bring in with their business. And Lorraine's really, really is. So I think we will start off, Lorraine, with hearing your story. So tell us your story.
So my story is that for 20-ish years, I worked in further education and secondary school. But as middle leader, head of department, so significant middle leadership role. And I also had another life in my private life, which I dabbled in alternative lifestyles. So kink, BDSM, bondage and domination, and swinging. And those two worlds conflicted in my head massively. Fear, shame, guilt. Is this something I should be doing as a secondary school teacher? How would this show out if someone found out? What happens if I bump into someone on parents' evening that I've seen in the world of the other? Which did happen.
I didn't recognise you with your clothes on.
Yeah. But just this societal misconception about what's right, what's wrong, who should be doing what, like all these stories that we tell ourselves. And in 2016, I'd kind of had enough. It made me really ill, to be honest. Alopecia, physically ill, depressed, just wondering, like, why can't I be me? Like, what is all this stuff that I'm telling myself? And it came from all sorts of places. It wasn't in particularly one place. And I gave up teaching and kind of just set up a little training business, not really thinking anything of it, but I decided to go on a healing journey to sort my body out. I learned about mindfulness. I learned about energy healing, stuff I'd never even heard of. I started to explore. And Tantra crossed my path, tantric massage. And I started exploring Tantra and energy work and crystals and all sorts of weird and wonderful things I'd never heard of. And Tantra really sang to me because of my lifestyle choices as another way of expressing myself and my sexual energy or my choices. And I started working as a Tantra practitioner and teacher. And what I found was 90% of my clients were business professionals.
Wow.
That had lost the balance in life of spending time in pleasure with their partner, with themselves, just tapping into that side of them and feeling guilty when they did. Finding a loss of balance in their life, challenging relationships, which was then starting to show up as sexual dysfunction, relationship dysfunction, life dysfunction. People coming to me like really on the edge of life because trying to find a balance between bedroom and business sometimes can be really difficult when we focus so much on our business.
It's also thinking it through. I'm going to sort of do a silly little comparison with food. But if you're not, if you go on a diet, say for instance, or you torture yourself through not eating enough, or you're not having cake, or you're making a big thing of it, it does impact. It impacts on the rest of our stuff, doesn't
100%.
it? It affects our business. You may think, so we may think actually what I'm eating or the battle that I'm having, let's call it the battle that I'm having with food, doesn't have any impact anywhere else, but it does because you're in a battle somewhere else, aren't you?
Yes.
You're not happy with something. You're either cutting out food because you have a poor self-image, or you're overeating because of the same thing, or you're comfort eating or whatever. And it's in a way it's a sort of similar analogy, isn't it?
I would say it's similar, other than we do talk about food and we don't talk about sex.
We
We
do. Some people don't, though.
No, 100%.
So for some people, it's actually quite a closed, can't mention it sort of thing.
Difficult challenge to go through.
But yes, if things aren't right, either in ourselves or with a partner or not with a partner, it doesn't really matter, does it? That is going to impact somewhere else. It can't just stay where it is it?
100%. And it's that thing, like, if we're not happy at home, then we take that to work, and then we become not happy at work because we're not feeling
and then we take that home
and satisfied, and then we go home, and it just escalates. And somewhere along the line, years later, many of the people I work with, it's not like it's been a few months. This sometimes is years where they haven't been able to have a conversation. They've been unhappy with that part of their life. They've not been able to talk about it. They felt very disconnected from themselves and their partner, and it just, no one engages in that conversation. It gets left and left and left. Days turn into weeks, months, years, and then it becomes more and more awkward, because if you suddenly start talking about it, it's like, well, where's that come from?
Over the lasagna.
It's just like, are they having an affair? Where's this suddenly come from? What's going on? And it just becomes, and even people just don't want. No, we don't like rejection, and we're scared of having these conversations because what happens if we get judged? And also the fact that sometimes our needs change. Well, not sometimes. As we go through life, our needs change in that area of our life, and even having that conversation. So sometimes, whether it's menopause or changes that men go through, sometimes it's like, well, actually, why are we doing the same thing and expecting the same result when we're different? We can't keep doing the same thing the same way. Sometimes we have to get on a different bus. That's how I talk about it.
So, I quite like that. There's a bus runs past my house.
The destination is the same. The destination is the same. We still want to get to that yummy end, but sometimes we just have to get there in a different way.
Absolutely.
You may or may not know the answer to this, because I suspect it was quite early on in your business. But you said you realised that you had lots of business professionals coming to you. Do you know what it was that you were saying? So what was it in your, if you like, your marketing message that was encouraging, that was getting business professionals to go, I think I need to go and find out about this?
Because I told my story and I was honest. I gave other people permission. So a lot of the people, and I asked the question, like, what? Because it's a,
But why business professionals? I can see how your story would encourage every.
Yes.
I'm going to say Tom, Dick, and Harry.
Yeah,
go for it.
Every Tom, Dick, and Harry to come and see you. But what was it about? What were you saying that business professionals? Or is it just that they had the money?
I don't think it was the money. I think it was that they were in a bigger pain place because it was affecting them in a more dramatic way. They were losing their home, their family, particularly men. When men particularly lose that aspect of their life and it's not functioning for whatever reason, it's significant. They're driven differently, 100%. Men and women are driven differently. And they need a solution, and they're looking for a solution. They don't know where to go. They know it's impacting them. They know that they're not happy at work or home, and they become very disconnected.
So was it that you were talking about some problems that they may be seeing at work that were encouraging them to come along? So it could be short-tempered, not getting results, low self-esteem, feeling left out, or whatever could happen in a workplace.
And that disconnection, I think. So I think particularly for men, when it's and the Tantra massage, I'm kind of pivoting now to help more people because that's the pain point. I want to prevent it. So that's where I'm moving to in the business now, is preventing it. But when I was doing the Tantra massage, people are in a really challenging place. And I think with Tantra massage, because it's working with the physical aspects of the challenge, men are more driven to seek out a physical aspect. Women will go for, a lot of the women that I worked with went to counselling first and dealt with the emotion of it, whereas men are looking for a different solution. So I think it was, people were in a place in their life where they just found it challenging and just wanted to try something different. And it may have been to do with the fact that, they could afford it, 100%. But also I think it was seeking out something different because it was having such an impact on their life, with their relationship with themselves, with their partner and with their business. They were miserable, they were unhappy, they weren't thriving. Their communication was being affected, their state of mind was being affected. This is a mental health issue. I've worked with men and women that have been almost suicidal over their challenges around sexual function.
I suppose what I was interested in was the recognition by, if you like, your client that this is what they're experiencing. These are the results that they're getting, if you like, in the workplace, and finding that that sexual energy.
I don't think they even realised that, Sian.
Right,
they weren't in
okay.
that place. They just needed help.
Okay.
I joined up the dots and was like, why am I getting?
Right, okay.
What is it that I'm doing?
So they were looking at the sort of the sexual aspect
for
of
them,
it.
it was. I'm in a really sticky space. I'm or not.
Interesting turn of phrase there.
But it was just. I don't think it was me that was like, how am I attracting business professionals?
Right.
And I'm sure they're not the only ones, but that's who I was attracting. Now, whether that was about the product, whether that was about a different need, but it was those people and it was me that joined up the dots. I don't think it was a case. I wasn't advertising to them. That was the niche I was attracting, and they were. Although I was working others, they had the greatest struggles. There was other stuff in the pot that made it even harder, like long working hours, travelling.
So they're tired as well.
Tired, and then that whole escalate, working silly hours. Some of them were travelling abroad. Some of them, their partners didn't really understand what they were, why they were spending long hours at work. So there was a disconnection in communication.
And it's difficult to strike up a difficult conversation, isn't it, when you're there for, an hour and a half for one evening and then you're flying out the country the next day.
It's just sticky plasters, keeping the peace. And actually, the couples work I've done, it's both parties were feeling the same, but each side was too scared to mention it because they didn't want to upset the other one. I've done loads of couple works where it's just like, well, I was feeling the same, but I didn't want to say it because I think, you thought I wasn't unhappy and I do still love you. And they were echoing each other.
It's a big discussion, isn't it?
It is.
It's a big discussion. It's not the sort of thing, you don't take the steak and kidney pie out the oven and go, OK, so we're having mash with this today, by the way.
No, yeah. Did you realise?
Yeah. Well, we're on the topic.
But that's where we've created that, I think, in society from our sex education, which is a whole nother topic. But we've created that inability to be able to talk about it. And sometimes people say to me, when we listen to you speak, you just talk about stuff as if it's everyday stuff. And I'm like, well, it is.
Sort of is, yes.
I mean, particularly to me, it's my everyday.
So you're highlighting there what I think, and I've been out of the education system as a child. I was never in there as a teacher or anything. But I remember sex education really being very functional around sanitary towels and sort of parts and where they went and not getting pregnant, as opposed to any emotional or pleasurable aspect of it.
It's fear and facts. Sex education is fear and facts. It's nothing about.
Yes, that's brilliant. It is.
100% fear and facts. You're petrified about getting pregnant. You're petrified about getting disease. You're petrified about getting someone pregnant.
Yeah, I remember.
And it's just a list of information.
Showing pictures of, not quite genitals, because that would have been like too extreme,
diagrams
of things, like pictures of legs with blobs and spots and pustules of sexual diseases.
Yeah. I always say we kind of learn how to make a baby, how not to make a baby, whether you're male or female, how to not catch a disease and how to put a condom on a banana for most of us, which was not particularly helpful.
No, it wasn't at all. But I'm still having fun with that one.
Yeah. It's just like, it doesn't work.
Especially with these nails.
It's just like,
absolutely.
And my question is, rather than the biology, what happens if we don't know about the energy and how powerful that energy can be? We've got that free access to serotonin, dopamine, endorphins that's sitting there, and we never learn about that.
Yeah.
And we learn about the process and the routine rather than the experience.
Mm-hmm. Let's talk about the energy side of things, because I'm a real sort of I don't know, you can't be an advocate of energy, but I'm really keen on making sure that we manage energy at events and this sort of thing, that you keep the energy in a room and in a space. And I think a lot of people look at me sometimes like I'm mad when I say, actually, no, I don't want people in there, because that will cut the energy off of that. It will split everything up. And if I'm talking with people, they go, I don't know what you mean. So have you ever walked into a house? You can walk into a house and you can feel if people have had an argument.
Yeah.
100%.
And I think nearly everybody has experienced that at some point. They've walked into a room, everybody may be sat there exactly as they normally are, staring at the telly, but something's crackling in there.
100%. And I'll take it further than that as well, to say actually people that are unconfident in the bedroom are less confident in business. There's a thing about being, if you understand who you are as an individual, if you are open to being vulnerable, to communication, to being in that energy wholeheartedly with another person or with yourself, you have a knowledge about yourself, or you just walk a little bit taller.
So open to being vulnerable. So yeah, we are really vulnerable in business. You have to say sometimes, don't you? Would you like to buy this? And somebody might go, no. In fact, no, really, it's awful. And that makes you vulnerable.
100%.
Yeah.
And the bedroom's a place to practice these skills, negotiation skills, overcoming objections, dealing with challenging conversations.
Overcoming conversations, yeah.
Look the other way then.
Yeah.
But it's just there's so many overlaps in the skills between the two. And the energy point is really interesting, because actually from an energetic perspective, that area of our body is all about creativity, power, giving and receiving.
Can I bring a bit of woo-woo in?
You bring as much woo-woo in as you like, because it's relevant, 100%.
Root chakras.
Yeah, 100%. So if you think about the genital space and the act of, it's about giving and receiving. So if we're not open and understand the power of giving and receiving in intimacy, how does that show up in our business? If we're not open to being creative in the bedroom, if we're not open to not doing the same thing over and over again, even down to who gets the tissue and who gets the tea, if it's just literally that same thing that's so predictable every time, how does that show up in our business? There's no creativity.
It's all the tissue, it's the tea.
Yeah.
Do you have tea? Let's just have maybe coffee's available. But it's just like we get stuck in these routines. So how, that whole energy is about creativity, manifesting. So if we're blocked from the kind of the waist down in the root chakra, the sacral, the solar plexus, what does that mean for our business? Because nothing's flowing.
No, that's true. What can be the root cause for women or men generally?
There's so many. That can be all sorts. That can be our upbringing, sex education, the media, our restriction to embrace it, and our fear of other people's perceptions of us. That was my whole thing. I was living it, but I was scared, what will other people say?
Okay.
So I think there's lots of, it can be our upbringing, religion, culture, it's a big pot and everyone's different. But I think as a society, we don't talk about it, and that scares me, because what I'm seeing now is it's becoming a mental health issue, and we're talking about a lot of different things within mental health. But I've worked with people within those topics that are, suicidal or struggling around menopause because they don't understand their body, because suddenly it's changing, or men's body that's changing for various reasons. There's so many things in research of illnesses and health conditions that by not tapping into the energy of sex intimacy, we can manifest in our body.
Yeah.
From issues around prostate, from other things that can occur in our body, because we're not celebrating and really tapping into that free resource.
We're not using our bits.
We're not using our bits.
No.
And it's a that transcendental, orgasmic, blissful, euphoric energy. When we learn how to tap into it, and we can do it on our own. We can just breath work.
I
can get you into a space.
I sort of had a couple of questions there for you. So the first one is, do people who are perhaps already living in, let's call it, I don't know, diverse sexual environments, so they're going along to swinging things, they're doing things that perhaps as society, it's just a little bit outside of it, isn't it? But, inside society, it tends to be, two partners doing things in a room or not in a private space.
Yes.
Okay. So if we take it outside of that into multiple partners, and I'm not talking about polygamous marriages or anything that's I don't want to say all polygamous marriages are subversive, but somewhere where there's a degree of control that's not okay, coercive control.
So when there's choices outside of that.
So when there are excellent, thank you so much. Choices, proper freedom of choice. So when there are people who are operating in that space, do they have the same issues that are being presented?
I'm sure there are in every different diverse relationship people that have issues. However, from my own personal experience, people that are tapping into alternative lifestyles where they have taken maybe a slightly different choice to the mainstream relationships, I would say have a greater understanding of consent and boundaries and how to communicate. Mm-hmm. They have a greater ability to connect to themselves, and they have more freedom in their choices. They're not so restricted. And there's definitely a whole thing around communication, consent and boundaries, because they have to. If you're indulging in the worlds of swinging and submission and kink, and there's so much more communication that goes on because it has to.
For safety.
100%.
For safety
and
reasons.
And also couples that are indulging, if they're in such like as the swinging world, those conversations happen. They're having those conversations. If they're not in it for very long. But if they're having the conversations, then it's working for them. They're 100% having the conversations. And they're a lot more free about how they express themselves, from how they dress to how they communicate to how they celebrate their own energy.
Yes, because of course there are other things, aren't there, where we are sometimes not who we are inside. We present ourselves to the world by what we say or do, and sometimes we don't always say and do what's in our heads. We stop that.
Yeah, and it's the difference between what we do in life and who we are, and that's the bit I struggle with. I was a teacher. That's what I did. It wasn't who I was.
It wasn't your identity. No.
Yeah.
Yes.
And,
yeah.
Even now, talking to professionals and stuff, when I talk about this stuff and I say to them, tell me about you, and they almost, even in a session with me, go into an elevator pitch. And I'm like, no, I want to know about you, not what you do in
Shall
life.
I tell you what? A big red flag for me, if I'm working with somebody, is when I do that. So, okay, well, why are we here? Tell me. They go, oh, I'm a soldier. Yeah. I'm a teacher. I'm a whatever. They're in that, that's their identity. And if they lost that job, if something happened or they left, it could be quite voluntary that they go, suddenly, what are you going to do if you're not a teacher, but you are a teacher? You're just not in a teaching role. And I think it's really important to recognise that.
Yeah.
I think there's so much societal restriction. So, I was petrified kind of coming out as such and started to talk about my story and swinging and kink. And although my family were a little bit like, what happened? Like, how did that? Like, suddenly I was a teacher, and then suddenly I was doing something else.
So they saw it. It's like there's an event, and there you were. I'm doing normal in inverted commas here. So she's going to work. Yeah. You've been a teacher. You're bringing books home. You're marking them, and then suddenly there's a line that's drawn,
and I'm now a Tantra teacher.
Yeah, and you're out there. You're out there swinging. But it wasn't really like that, was it?
But I wasn't out there swinging. I'd been swinging for the 20 years.
Yeah, that's what I meant. That's what I meant.
It wasn't. What do you mean you've been doing that?
Yeah.
Like, it was suddenly this, and so for them there was a bit of a. I think they thought I was going through some sort of midlife crisis at that point, but there was a transition for them. But a lot of people...
Were they cross?
No.
Were they cross that they didn't know?
No, they were I think shocked, because that wasn't, like, if you knew me then, that wasn't my energy at all. I was, the stereotypical kind of school teacher, whatever that is, but they were more shocked. 100% now support me because they see how happy it makes me stepping into my energy.
If that was one of my children, for instance, I think I'd be quite upset that they've been living a double life that they couldn't share with me. That why am I so sort of closed off that you couldn't actually be open about that? Mm-hmm. So that's what I meant by cross. I don't think they were cross. I think.
They understood why, because there's generational patterns, there's things that they were also. But I mean, having now seen the work I've done and the changes and read my testimonials and been in magazines and all the rest of it, and they understand that this is not a choice for me. Mm-hmm. Like, I still live within the swinging world, I still live within the BDSM world, and now I'm working in the therapeutic world to help people through education, through Tantra, through whatever means I can. And before it was supporting people at the point of absolute pain, and now I want to do the prevention because I'm seeing the same things over and over again. It's about lack of communication, not understanding how to be mindful in the bedroom because our brain is somewhere else and we're not present in the experience. Mm-hmm. Actually, a lot of what I teach is life skills that we just never got taught.
Yes.
Be mindful, be present, communicate, embrace creativity, be playful. Like, when did we lose that bit?
Yeah.
That we can't be playful anymore in the bedroom. We kind of lose this sense of freedom, because society, you know, we spend 0 to 7 exploring ourselves, running around naked. Well, I still do that sometimes, but running around naked, like just celebrating who we are, you know, exploring through all our senses. And then suddenly over time we seem to be closed down on some of that. And the one time we can celebrate it with a partner, even then we're kind of, suddenly we're uncomfortable doing it, even in the privacy of our own home with our own partner. It's just bizarre.
I want to talk to you. I actually sort of want to ask you about swinging.
Okay.
But I don't want this to be the main thrust of the conversation.
Oh, my word.
Go, go on.
That was just a normal word. I just realised it fitted in quite nicely here. No, I don't want this to be the full thrust of the conversation. I had to say it again. But so the swinging. So say somebody decided that, okay, swinging is, I could see this is something I'd like to explore. I'd like to explore myself. I'd like to explore that world. How do you get out there? How do you find safe places to do this?
Okay, so there's online communities, like there is in dating. There's online platforms.
Oh, okay.
And there are swinging clubs. In fact, me and my partner have a swinging club and own a swinging club. So there are clubs out there that you can go to that provide a space where you can meet other people and connect with individuals.
See, because I'll tell you what my impression of this is that there I am, and it's like, there's Malcolm. Here's Malcolm. You and Malcolm are going to be doing the do. No. And I'm going, no, I don't mean, no, ooh, no. Okay, so Malcolm, how do I say this?
No, there's so many myths about swinging. It is a whole another conversation. There's no keys in the bowl. There's none of that exists. We provide a space that people can come and socialise. And if they choose to connect with another person there, and we have many people that come to the club and are just there to socialise because it's a place for freedom. They can dress how they want. They can be
that makes sense.
Their sexual self, whatever that looks like. They don't necessarily indulge in the evening. But there are people, lots of people that do that. And it's a choice and it's a conversation and it's, you know, what are you into, and you know, just general chatting and no's no. And
so
yes
how
yes.
how would I know, as somebody who's never been involved in anything like that, how would I know, looking at, we'll say your club, that this is a safe and I want to say kind, but sort of safe choice space for me to come along to? As how would I distinguish that from perhaps something else where it's not like that? I think if you're going to be doing something like that, it needs to be a safe space where you have the choice to be who you want to be. Whereas if you go online and search for, or you find swinging clubs, how do you know which one is like that?
So a club is a much safer environment than meeting people at their homes, etc.
Right.
Et because it's a. So if you was to go online and chat to a couple, you could arrange to meet them somewhere like a club, which is a lot safer than maybe a hotel or going to someone's house.
It didn't occur to me that, of course, you could. The reason I'm confused, it didn't occur to me that you could set this up yourself. Okay.
Yeah, it's not like
Got you.
It's not like it's not speed dating, Sean. You don't get what you're given and you can't say no. You haven't got to talk to them for like 20 minutes just hoping this is painfully
You've got 3 minutes.
No. You get 4.
If you're not done by that, you have to move on to the next table.
It's like going to a pub, but it's a space where you can go off and indulge.
So
really,
really,
you can't necessarily do in a pub. But
assessing it, see how it works, and see that it's a club and that there's a social element around it.
We always say to people, if you want to come along. The first time you can't, have no expectations.
Right, okay.
Tap into the social side, see what we're about, explore the space, we've got a lounge area, we've got music, we've got, just come and see what it's all about. And then if you want to, go home, have the conversation with a partner and then, rejoin us at another time, then that works too.
Okay, I think there would be a really interesting conversation for another time about actually running that sort of organisation as a business and some of the problems and issues around it and some of the solutions. I think that would be really interesting, but we're not going to talk about that now. What I would like to talk about is how you take this topic into businesses and how you do that. Are you going into businesses at workshops? Are you working one-to-one with staff and executives? What does so say I booked you, my business booked you to come in. what would happen? What would that look like?
So there's a number of options. So I do a presentation. So I can come in and do a presentation under the kind of health and wellbeing umbrella of mental health, supporting people to how to go back home and start that conversation to support that. So there's an opportunity for that, which then there's some free training that companies can tap into, and that would lead on to if people want to then join the online program, which is an automated program, if they wanted kind of the next level. So there's a number of options. It's either a company could ask for the free training and just send it out on an email to all of their staff and provide that as an option, and then people can do the training and book a call with me if they want to see how else I can support them, or actually to come in and deliver a wellbeing presentation that's, I was going to say interactive. It's not practically interactive. It's not practically interactive, but it's not it's not a sitting. It's a little bit more.
We're back to bananas.
Could
you pick your banana?
It's fun. It's not. It shouldn't be a serious topic. It should be fun. It is. Sex should be fun. So
there's a real tricky balance there for you, isn't there? Because I'm assuming that when businesses have called you in, it's to talk to, if you like, a group of people. They haven't necessarily gone, Roger, we've had enough of you. We're calling Lorraine. She's going to come in and you're going to have a session. Yes, sort you out. That you're actually having this as part of a general sort of workshopy type thing.
Okay. So there is an issue here that if I was to go into a business and the business gave them an option of coming to listen to me speak, there was a high probability most people are going to turn up to, people aren't going to turn up to a workshop that's promoting about sexual energy and relationships, because no one wants to be seen to be by that person. However, when I go into businesses and network groups and whatever organisations I'm working with, 90% of the people in the audience afterwards go, oh my God, that was me. Like, that's my life. So no one wants to admit this. So it's kind of like everyone needs me, but no one wants to admit it in that sense. So it's finding the balance of getting the message out there, making it fun. I love the comedy. I love, to bring the fun element in, making it accessible. And, for businesses just to be brave, really, and see this as a topic that needs to be addressed, and the benefits of their organisation when it is addressed, because happy people are productive people.
But it doesn't. I can see how it's very difficult, I would think, to present this and not have it with like this invisible subtitle of, if you're not getting any, come to this workshop at lunchtime. But it doesn't have to be about that, does it? But it can be difficult to get that across.
100%, and that's why I call it it's about business success, because it's about actually the focus I talk about is the skills are very similar. Like, if we can develop this area of our life, we're not saying it doesn't exist, we're just saying it can be developed, and the benefit there is in our business when we tap into that energy and that part of ourselves.
I'm not sure how this next question will pan out, but let's just give it a go. Say you're talking about that energy, just energy. So say you are a person who doesn't have a sexual partner and may not want one. What can we do? And I know that there is an obvious question, there is an obvious answer, and I think perhaps we're happy to address that. But what can you do about that if you want to improve your energy and what's going on around you? So say you've got low self-esteem and all of this sort of thing. You don't want a sexual partner. Now what?
Sign up to my course, to be honest, because there's so much we can do. So, if we're not feeling very confident about ourselves, there's lots of things we can do to build our inner confidence, to identify our own identity as a sexual human being, to become more confident in our body, to become more confident in our communication, to understand what pleasure means to us. And all of that I address. I'm not aiming this at people that have got relationships. That's just tends to be the people that are more active about taking
So
some
I think
action.
what we're saying here is that there is a difference between sexual energy and the act of sex.
100%.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because sexual energy. Okay. So let me. We are sexual energy. Like we are the vibration of sexual energy. We vibrate, Sian. We are sexual energy. That's how we show. It's how we dress. It's how we walk. It's how we talk. It's how we communicate.
Even if you don't have a sexual relationship or a partner, if you like, or somebody that you can. God, I should have thought of some words, shouldn't I?
If you don't have another significant person,
if you don't have another human being that you are going to have a sexual relationship with, even if you choose not to masturbate, there is something that you can do to help your energy, your own personal sexual energy.
Whether you are in a relationship with 1, 2, 3, 4 or 5 person, the best person that you can have the most intimate, perfect relationship is you. That is where it starts. Even if you're in a couple, whatever you're in, it's got to start with you. A trouble. Like, it starts with you. So many people start off their sexual journey handing their body over to somebody else to find out how it works.
Yes.
How do you know what pleasure is? That's the beautiful thing about tantric massage. It's a space where you can step out of your relationship and explore your body without the agenda or the time, just the agenda of being with another person. When do we get that opportunity to find out what do we actually like? We kind of hand ourselves around to different people in different relationships, exploring it, trying to get it right, fumbling around, and sometimes we don't even know what we want, and we're putting
almost
up
at the
with
sort
what
of
we're getting.
whims and fancies of somebody else.
Yes, 100%.
And their knowledge as well.
Our intimate relationship with another human being is only as good as they are. It's only the knowledge, and that's, as we get older, sometimes we realise that. And if you're with someone for a long period of time, how do you keep that alive?
Exactly.
You've got to step outside the box and try new things, and sometimes that scares people so much because we don't want to upset anyone. If we suddenly suggest, we had after the COVID thing, we had a big influx into both of my business and me and my partner's business, because people had conversations in that time they'd never had before because they were scared. Like, life's short. What do you want? Do you want a bungee jumps? What do you want to do in life? And people were tapping into this kind of stuff because it is important, and they'd never really spoken about it until they were faced with the possibility of, life not being quite as they thought, to bring up that conversation.
So, we're going to have a few more questions in a moment, but I want to make sure that people know how they can connect with you, how they can tap into the course, and have a conversation with you, perhaps about getting you into their business. So how can people contact you?
So the best place I would say to go to is my website, which is www.orgasmiclife.me. And on there's a speaker page where you can connect. There's information about the course. Everything's on there. Or give me a shout on a social media platform, looking up Lorraine Crooks, either on LinkedIn or Facebook. Reach out and we can have a conversation.
So, we haven't finished yet. You're not off the hook.
Yeah, absolutely.
You're not off the hook at all. What do you know now that you wish you'd have known when you started out?
Started out in business.
That's up to
or
you.
Life.
That's up to you.
Oh, wow. So many. I could probably answer with about 20 answers. I would say in my life and in my business, being true to me has given me the most success. Always trusting my heart. Even when, I've been with business coaches that have made suggestions about how to do different things in my business, to always follow my heart. If it doesn't feel right, I don't do it. It's got to feel right. It's got to be that energy of feeling right. My heart has got to be fluttering and skipping a beat.
That is so important, isn't it? Especially when we're dealing with business coaches. And I'm doing that inverted commas things again, and I'm on the radio, quote marks. Because, very often, especially if you've paid a lot of money for a business coach, there's sort of this assumption that you have to do what they tell you.
Yeah.
What is it that you use to tap into your gut instinct? How do you do that? What does it feel? What are you looking for to know that what they've told you or what they've suggested is right for you?
So the first thing there is thinking about where our gut instinct is, because it's down in that region again. So I can tap into that because I'm in flow with it. My channels are open, so to speak, and it's just trusting. I sit with it and feel into it. How does it feel in my body if I do it? How does it feel in my body if I don't? And what would it feel like if there was this outcome, and what would it feel if there was a different outcome? Like just looking at the pendulum almost of the two alternatives.
So sort of sitting and thinking it through, which is sometimes something that we don't do. That sounds like a good idea. But then you sit think actually, so let's imagine this happening and it's going along this path and the sorts of things people could get involved with, what I get involved with, what happens, the outcomes and what it feels like. So just sitting with it for a while.
Yeah, I think we can justify anything in life, whether it's business or bedroom. We can justify going to the party, not going to the party. It's a perception of a situation in a moment of time. So it's just, what's right for us in that moment of time. It might change. We might not. I always think if you do it from your heart and you get it wrong, you still did it for the right reason.
Yes, I like that.
I like that too.
Okay, so what is your top tip for being in business?
Top tip?
Yes, top tip for being in business.
Probably going to be a similar thing about trusting your own instinct. Do what makes you happy. Play, be playful with it.
That's not something we often hear, actually.
But again, it's that same energy, isn't it?
That is not something we often hear. In fact, I don't think I've ever had that come up because very often it's always quite serious, isn't it? Business is serious. It's a serious business.
Says who?
Well, exactly. No, that's what I'm saying. That is normally, the answers come in the sort of context of business being quite serious. So to play with it, to actually relax and play with your business.
Yeah.
I like that.
That's exciting.
This one, I'm not sure if you're going to be able to answer this, and we haven't got long, but I'm going to go for it anyway. What is the top tip for your topic? Now, it's difficult because I don't really know what your topic is. Okay, I'm not quite sure. You can't be pigeonholed. You're not necessarily a coach, but let's go with, bringing sexual energy into your business. What's your top tip? Sat there now. What's your top tip for that?
My business is sexual empowerment, and give yourself permission to embrace it because that's how you got here.
Permission. Okay.
We're all sexual energy. That's how we got here. At some point, two people connected in some way, shape or form, to manifest.
But I like that the word permission is in there.
Perfect.
I think that's brilliant. So thank you so much. Thank you so much to Adelle. You didn't really get a word in, did you, dear?
No,
sorry.
I was just listening and taking notes, basically.
It's because there's no preparation.
There isn't.
There's no preparation here. We don't,
so much
we sit down 3 minutes before. I'm going to make it better.
So much information, though.
And
so cool.
Thank you also to Lorraine Crooks. So with her business success system, which is out there now, you can find out about it on her website, Orgasmic Life. Thank you for a really interesting show. Thank you also for running a really interesting business. It's the first time I've ever seen anybody speaking about that.
Yeah.
And I really appreciate it. I think it's bringing in a totally different energy and a totally different element into how we run our businesses.
Yeah.
So thank you for sharing all of that.
Thank you.
This has been the Women in Business Big Show. I'm Sian Murphy. We will be back next week with similar stuff.
Absolutely.
So see you soon. You take care. Bye.
Bye.
Tune in next week to the Women in Business radio show for more stories, ideas and inspiration to help you grow your business.